My name is Emily, 30 years old, a new mom.
Michael, let's talk about our life together. It may not be full of passion, but isn't the ordinary what lasts the longest?
Yes, Emily. I believe so too. We have a solid foundation, and that's what matters.
My parents are business people, considered middle class, and financially comfortable. My sister, Jessica, got married a year before me with a dowry of 1 million yuan. When it was my turn, they also gave me 1 million yuan, but I didn't tell Michael.
I was afraid he'd feel inferior. Michael's parents are retired workers, and the dowry they gave me was much less.
Just a month before our wedding, Michael's parents were on the verge of separating.
Michael, what's going on? You seem distant lately.
It's my father. He's in some trouble, financially.
How much does he owe?
500,000 yuan.
We need to talk about this. Let's meet tomorrow.
After the wedding, we settled into a mundane life. Later, I became pregnant, and Michael started sleeping in a separate bed, claiming it was to protect the baby. They say pregnancy makes you a bit naive, and I truly was. I agreed without much thought. From the moment we started sleeping separately, Michael grew increasingly distant. He wouldn't even inform me when he went out for meals or drinks with others.
Michael, where are you going tonight?
I'm having dinner with friends. I'll be back late.
Can I come too?
No, Emily, it's just friends. We'll argue if you keep insisting.
That night, Michael didn't come home, and I cried until dawn. From then on, his indifference was blatant.
Michael, can we discuss the baby preparations?
Not now, Emily.
Frustrated, I returned to my parents' home.
Why won't he answer my calls or treat me better?
My parents were furious seeing me like this, and my sister Jessica was even angrier.
Emily, I want to confront Michael.
No, Jessica, you're almost as far along in your pregnancy as I am. I don't want you to risk anything.
At 8 months pregnant, still staying at my parents' home, I couldn't bear it any longer.
Michael, is the child I'm carrying even yours?
All I got was silence. I had cried until I was dry. Even though I was about to give birth, I was determined to get a divorce. However, when my son was born, my resolve to divorce began to waver as I looked at my helpless baby. With some persuasion, Michael took us back home. But his attitude didn't change.
Michael, why won't you share a bed with me?
I started to act out. During one argument, I even smashed our son's bottle, and the shattered glass cut his delicate skin. I regretted it deeply. From that moment on, we entered a complete Cold War. No more arguments, no more expectations. The turning point came when our child was about to turn 1 month old. In our tradition, after the confinement period, the mother and baby returned to her parents' home. After enduring a month at the Sun family, I could finally go back to my own family. My mood wasn't particularly good, but at least I felt a bit of relief. On the day I returned home, Jessica also came back with her baby. Our children were born just minutes apart. As I was wheeled into the delivery room, Jessica was wheeled in right after me. Our family was careful not to mention my divorce, and with 2 babies around, the atmosphere was quite joyful. The turning point came when Michael made an unexpected visit. He brought supplements for both me and Jessica. For the sake of the child, my parents let him in.
Michael, you didn't have to.
It's for the baby. Emily, where do you want to hold the baby's 1 month celebration?
I stayed silent, suspecting he had someone else but never finding evidence.
Oh, Michael, did you have a sudden pang of conscience last night or what?
Sarah, you and your sister had your babies just a day apart. Shouldn't we have a joint celebration?
Michael successfully persuaded us. We chose a hotel and a good date, and both families decided to hold a joint celebration. Seeing Michael's change, my hardened heart began to soften bit by bit. After all, he was my son's father. If we could repair our relationship. Watching Michael's busy figure, I thought to myself. Unexpectedly, when the host invited us to the stage with our babies, something happened. The camera focused on our babies, and the live screen showed the real-time footage.
Michael, which one is your child?
Of course, the one my wife is holding is my son.
Oh, really? He doesn't look like you. I thought the man standing next to him was his father. They have the same hair.
A seemingly casual remark immediately created a tense atmosphere. The smile on my face froze, and Michael's expression turned ugly. The person was pointing at my brother-in-law, John. My son was born with naturally curly hair, just like my brother-in-law's. When he was born, I had my doubts, thinking it was quite a coincidence. Jessica had joked about it too, but we didn't take it seriously. But being pointed out at the celebration was a different matter. Back home, Michael's face was extremely cold. I sat on the living room sofa holding the baby, with Michael and his parents all present. They all looked hostile.
The baby is tired, don't disturb him.
As I stood up to go to the bedroom, Michael rushed over and grabbed me.
Don't go! You think you can just walk away after putting such a big stain on my reputation? Emily, have you no shame?
Seeing Michael's eyes burning with anger, I quickly explained, fearing he might hurt the baby. But Michael wouldn't believe that John and I were innocent, insisting that the baby was John's. In the struggle, the baby almost fell to the ground. I couldn't help but slap Michael.
Are you crazy? I told you it's a coincidence.
However, Michael didn't hold back either and slapped me back, causing me and the baby to fall to the ground.
You.
Seeing Michael's almost ferocious look, I didn't dare to confront him directly. I wiped my mouth and said I would get a DNA test, then left with the baby to my parents' home. On the day of the DNA test, my parents accompanied me, and Michael came with his parents as well. The tension between the two sets of parents was palpable, but they restrained themselves from any confrontation. After completing a series of tests, Michael left without even glancing at our son, which made me feel even more disheartened. During the days of waiting for the results, my anger had reached its peak, just waiting to be unleashed when the results came in. On the day of collecting the results, I didn't let my parents come along. After leaving the child with them, I went to the hospital alone. Michael arrived with his parents again.
Emily, you claim you didn't deceive me. When the results come out, you'll regret it.
I wasn't afraid of his threats at all. The truth fears no shadow. After entering the outpatient number, the report was printed out within seconds. Michael snatched the report before I could get to it. Seeing this, I didn't rush, I just sneered, waiting to see his reaction when he got proven wrong. However, what I got was a hard slap.
Emily, you deceiver, you made a fool out of me.
Michael used all his strength in that slap, and I saw stars as I fell to the ground, taking a minute to recover.
Michael, are you crazy?
Ignoring the pain in my mouth, I shouted as I tried to get up and rush at him. Before I could get up, Michael kicked me in the chest. I couldn't get up at all. His actions successfully drew the attention of the people around us.
Young man, you hit too hard. How can you treat a woman like this?
Shame on you, hitting a woman is not what a good man does.
Call the police, I despise men who hit women.
I vaguely heard people speaking up for me. Then, I heard Michael say,
Everyone, judge for yourselves. She deceived me with her brother-in-law and had his child. Even hurting her wouldn't be enough.
enduring the severe pain, I looked up to see Michael holding the test report, shouting at the crowd.
Michael, are you serious?
It was my in-laws, Robert and Linda, who asked, just as shocked as I was, not having seen the report.
Dad, Mom, see for yourselves.
Michael handed the report to his parents, then walked towards me.
Emily, I will make sure the whole world knows you're a deceiver, and your entire family will kneel and apologize to me.
I was in too much pain to speak, my mind filled with one question: why would he say the child isn't his? I didn't deceive him. My suffering didn't end there. After reading the report, Michael's parents rushed over, pointing at me and hurling insults, saying the most hurtful things they could think of. They cursed for a long time, and I had no strength left to argue back. Just before I passed out, I saw security guards approaching. When I woke up, I stared at the white walls for a while before realizing I was in a hospital. As soon as I moved, I heard my mom exclaim,
Emily, be careful. The doctor said you have a minor rib fracture.
Pain. Excruciating pain. Without thinking much, I quickly asked about Michael.
Where's Michael?
Seeing this, my mom's eyes turned red from crying.
Emily, why are you still asking about that scoundrel? He hurt you so badly.
It turned out that after I passed out, the hospital contacted my parents, and Michael and his parents left in the chaos.
Emily, Jessica and John don't know about this yet. Is it really John?
My mom held back from saying my brother-in-law's name, but I knew she was starting to doubt.
Of course not. How could I admit to something I didn't do? From beginning to end, I've only been with one man, that scoundrel, Michael.
Immediately, I decided to have John come and do a DNA comparison with my son, while also contacting Michael, despite my overwhelming anger, to have him do another paternity test. Unexpectedly, Michael refused to cooperate and hung up on me. The next day, John and Jessica came to the hospital. Their relationship seemed unaffected by this matter, as loving as ever.
Seeing my condition, Jessica's temper flared up, and she wanted to go beat up Michael.
The wait was agonizingly long. Finally, the comparison results with John came out, and my mom pushed my wheelchair to get the results.
This time, I was determined to use the facts to make Michael regret it for the rest of his life.
But the result threw me into doubt once again. At that moment, Jessica and John came to visit me with some fruit and happened to see me getting the results. The bold letters on the report were glaring.
Biological father-son match. My son was indeed John's son. How could this be possible?
My mom. My sister. They both looked at me and John with disbelief, as if we had done something unforgivable.
We didn't.
Michael arrived just in time to see this scene.
Ha ha ha, Emily, hitting you wasn't in vain. Let's get a divorce, and you owe me 1 million yuan for emotional distress.
At that moment, I couldn't care less about him because Jessica slapped John.
You all, Emily, you really did it.
Jessica ran off crying. After that day, Margaret's hair turned white overnight, and she stopped talking to me, only silently taking care of me. Lying in the hospital, I couldn't do anything. Enduring the pain until I was discharged. Michael filed for divorce, accusing me of infidelity, with solid evidence.
I couldn't swallow this. I couldn't wait for my body to fully recover. I had to find out the truth and clear my and John's names. But my strength alone was limited. Jessica had deleted all my contact information, so asking her for help was impossible.
Just as I picked up my phone, John called.
Emily, we need to talk. We need to find out the truth. Only the two of us know what really happened.
A week later, John and I sat in a cafe, both dressed up to avoid being recognized.
The private investigators' findings showed that Michael was the one who had been unfaithful, with photographic evidence.
During our separation, Michael often stayed with a woman who lived in a nearby neighborhood. The private investigator also dug into the woman's background.
Lucy, 35 years old, divorced, single, no children, a nurse in the lab department at New University Hospital.
New University Hospital? Are you saying?
Yes, it's highly likely that Lucy falsified the test reports.
A fierce expression crossed my face. Not just likely, she definitely did it. Lucy manipulated everything, making Michael get rid of me this way, and even tried to extort $1 million in divorce compensation. She could definitely make Michael harm his own child.
Sarah, both DNA tests were done at the same hospital. Let's try a different one.
Unexpectedly, the DNA results from another hospital still showed that John and my son were biologically related. We were both stunned.
We hadn't done anything. What was going on?
Emily, we should do a DNA test with the child.
Of course, why hadn't I thought of that? The truth came out. The child was not my son. Subsequent tests showed that Jessica's child was actually my biological son. Someone had swapped our children at the hospital. Yes, Jessica and I had our children around the same time, making it easy for them to switch the babies. It had to be Lucy.
I will make Michael and Lucy pay for this. If I didn't avenge this, I wouldn't be Emily.
I had a banner made and hired a few women to stand outside Lucy's hospital. The banner read, "Emily is here to propose to lab nurse Lucy for my husband Michael." I also drafted a script for the women to shout outside the hospital. Soon, Michael, who hadn't contacted me in a while, called, demanding to know what I was doing. I hung up immediately. Michael had no right to talk to me. To prevent Michael from finding my family, I had my parents and the child moved to another house, away from all this trouble. I drove to the hospital, not to find Lucy, but to the office of the lab department head. I didn't knock, just pushed the door open. Inside were two people. One glance told me one was Lucy, the other was the department head, David, an old man about to retire. Lucy had red eyes, clearly from crying, and I could guess why.
Who are you? Who let you in? What are you doing here?
Both of them spoke almost simultaneously. I smiled, sat on the sofa, and crossed my legs.
Director David, is your lover complaining about being wronged?
David, having seen much in his years, quickly shut the door with a grim face.
Emily, you're wronging me. I didn't do it.
Lucy was truly foolish. I couldn't see what Michael saw in her. Denying it only made her look guilty. David sat down with a stern face, not speaking. I calmly took a file from my bag and handed it to David. A few minutes later, David slammed the file on the table in anger. Seeing his reaction, I believed he wanted to beat Lucy up. The file contained evidence of Lucy and Michael's relationship. These days, money can solve anything, the details were thorough.
What do you want?
Let her leave, and we can talk.
Lucy panicked, shouting.
David, she's not a good person. Don't believe her.
Shut up!
David slammed the table again. Soon, Lucy left David's office with resentment, and half an hour later, I left with a victorious smile. 3 days later, I received a call from the private investigator. Lucy was being rushed to the hospital after a car accident. I quickly made my way to the hospital, and unsurprisingly, Michael was there too. In just a few days, he looked utterly worn out. These days must have been sheer torment for him because I never revealed the truth to Michael. He must be completely bewildered, not knowing what I was up to. I was certain Michael had no idea the baby had been switched. He probably still thought there was something between me and John. When Michael saw me, his usual arrogance was gone, giving me the illusion that he might actually have genuine feelings for Lucy. If that were true, my revenge would be even sweeter.
Due to the accident, Lucy has lost the baby and will never be able to have children again. The news about the fractures pales in comparison to this blow.
Upon hearing this, Michael crouched down, holding his head.
What? Did you really fall for her?
Emily, I've been with Lucy for a long time, but you cheating with John is also a fact. The baby was his, not mine.
What an idiot! I cursed inwardly. I threw a few photos at Michael, all of them showing Lucy and David on dates. I was sure Michael had no idea about these.
No, this can't be true. I don't believe it.
Let me tell you another fact. The baby in Lucy's belly was never yours.
With that, I walked away with the stride of a victor. Whether the baby was Michael's or not, I didn't know. But since the baby was gone, I could say whatever I wanted, making him taste the bitterness of pain. I had my lawyer file for divorce from Michael. With all the evidence of his infidelity, he had to compensate me for some financial losses, and the 500,000 yuan I paid off his debts before marriage had to be returned. Of course, Michael's family couldn't come up with the money. I repeated my old trick and hired a few women to pester Michael for money every day, making it impossible for him to work peacefully. Soon, Michael was fired from his job and became unemployed. To this day, he still doesn't know the truth about the child being switched. I believe Lucy wouldn't foolishly tell Michael about it. After all, she could play the sympathy card and perhaps gain some pity from him. If things ended just like that, the pain I, Emily, suffered would never be avenged. Lucy orchestrated everything to ruin my family and almost caused my sister Jessica's divorce. After a quiet half-month, Lucy was discharged from the hospital, and Michael moved in with her. Over the years, Lucy used David's connections to open a beauty salon, so she had some money. Michael, currently without income, was likely living off Lucy. As for Lucy's job, she was directly fired from the hospital. She wouldn't take it lying down, having spent years with David. Lucy went to confront David, threatening him, which directly led to that car accident. She must have guessed it was David behind it, given his capabilities. Since then, Lucy has been much more subdued. What she didn't know was that after she left David's office that day, I made a deal with David. I promised not to expose his affair with Lucy in exchange for him dealing with Lucy, indirectly avenging me. David agreed without hesitation. He was scared. His wife's family had significant influence, and he owed his current position to her. If she found out about his affairs, it would be disastrous. David orchestrated a car accident that wouldn't take Lucy's life but served as a warning, avenging me in the process. Men in despair often turn to drinking and gambling, and Michael was no exception. He took Lucy's money to eat, drink, and vent his emotions. Over time, no woman could tolerate it. I seized the opportunity and set up a trap, causing Michael to lose 50 to 60,000 yuan in one go. Of course, he couldn't get the money from Lucy, leading to arguments and Michael moving back home. Then, he borrowed high-interest loans, using one loan to pay off another, creating a bigger and bigger hole. Debt collectors came knocking, and Michael had no choice but to move back in with Lucy. All his actions were under my control. Sometimes, I even admired my own ruthlessness. When the time was right, I personally visited Michael and Lucy with some people. Their expressions were priceless when they saw me.
What are you doing here?
Just came to see your miserable state, nothing more.
Emily, don't think that just because you caught me cheating and divorced me, I'm afraid of you. You're no saint either, making me a fool.
Michael, I'm here to tell you the truth today.
Emily, get out of my house, or I'll call the police.
She picked up her phone, ready to call.
Go ahead, call the police. I was planning to call them too.
Lucy stopped, her knuckles turning white as she gripped the phone.
What do you want to say?
Quickly, I revealed how Lucy had switched the child and faked the DNA test, presenting the evidence to Michael. Throughout the process, I didn't miss a single expression on Michael's face. All the blows he had suffered recently paled in comparison to tonight's revelation. He was stunned, unable to react, and remained in a daze even after I left. I didn't know what happened between Michael and Lucy that night, but the next day, Michael came to me, asking for forgiveness and wanting to see the child.
Emily, please forgive me. I want to see our child.
Do you think all your neglect since my pregnancy can be forgiven with just an apology?
Unexpectedly, Michael broke down in tears and knelt, admitting his mistakes and saying he wasn't a real man. He just wanted to see the child.
I'm sorry, Emily. I know I failed you. I just want to see my son.
My initial intention was to never let him see the child, given how poorly he treated us. But seeing him like this, my heart softened.
Fine, you can see him.
I brought the child, who had grown quite chubby. Unfortunately, since the full-month celebration, he hadn't been held by his biological father. Michael cried and kissed the child, showing genuine fatherly love.
If you had known this would happen, why did you act that way in the first place? A man who is unfaithful to his wife is not worth keeping.
So, when Michael begged me to remarry him for the sake of giving the child a complete family, I resolutely refused.
Please, Emily. For our son's sake, let's be a family again.
Work hard and earn child support for your son. That's the best you can do.
When Michael left, he kissed his son repeatedly, showing reluctance.
You can visit the child anytime. That's the most compassionate thing I can do.
A few days later, one morning, I habitually picked up my phone and saw a message from Michael.
Emily, I'm sorry. Everything is my fault. I am willing to take all the blame and not make any excuses. I've known Lucy for a long time, our families were neighbors when we were kids, but I never told you this.
For some reason, a sense of unease filled my heart as I continued reading.
When I was very young, my parents often argued, and later my mother left for another city and didn't return for years. I longed for my mother and transferred those feelings to my sister figure, Lucy. After Lucy moved away, I was sad for a long time. Unexpectedly, shortly after our marriage, I met Lucy again. I wanted to divorce you to be with Lucy, but Lucy said she didn't want to ruin our marriage.
Lucy didn't want to ruin our marriage because she enjoyed the feeling of possessing someone else's husband. Some women have a desire to conquer.
I was truly bewitched at the time, wanting to be with Lucy and even staying celibate for her, refusing to be intimate with you. Later, when I saw you were pregnant, I felt divorce was hopeless and became even colder towards you. Lucy told me that even if you gave birth, she would treat the child as her own. Lucy persuaded me to hold a full month celebration for our son, saying that no matter what, the child was still part of the family. She arranged for her friend to ask those questions at the celebration.
Reading this, my teeth were chattering with anger. This woman had orchestrated so much behind the scenes, nearly ruining my life and my son's.
Emily, no words can express my regret. I almost ruined my own son. Now, I will take all the blame and ensure the wrongdoers face justice. Take care of our son and never let him know he has a father like me.
No! Michael is going to do something drastic.
I immediately dialed Michael's phone, but the message said, "The number you have dialed is currently unavailable." I got up. Without hesitation, I headed straight to Lucy's place. They must be together. All the way, I kept praying that nothing bad would happen. But when I arrived, I saw police tape cordoning off the area, and my unease grew. I hurriedly asked what had happened.
Oh, you don't know? Someone died. A man harmed a woman. And then did something drastic himself.
Michael, it can't be you, right?
Then I saw the ambulance arrive. They first carried out a woman. Ignoring the barriers, I rushed in and saw Lucy lying lifeless with bloodstains on her body. I almost fainted.
Michael, how could you do something so foolish? Doctor, is she gone?
She's still breathing. Don't block us. We need to get her to the hospital immediately.
Hearing this, I breathed a sigh of relief.
Where is Michael? Where did he go?
At that moment, a police officer approached.
Who are you? Step outside the tape.
I know the woman. Please, what happened?
Just then, Michael was carried out. He didn't appear to have any external injuries, but his hand hung lifelessly off the stretcher.
Michael, are you okay?
I broke down instantly. Regardless of how poorly he had treated me, seeing someone I knew in such a state was heartbreaking. After all, I had once deeply loved this man. Michael didn't respond at all as he was loaded into the ambulance. Tears blurred my vision. I wiped them away and jumped into the ambulance, following it to the hospital. Aftermath. Michael, in his rage, vented all his anger on Lucy. He believed she shouldn't have lied about the child, thinking that if she hadn't, he wouldn't have divorced me or ended up in debt. After harming Lucy, he thought she was gone and decided to end his own life. Fortunately, their loud argument drew the neighbors' attention, and they called the police. Because of this, both were rescued in time. After recovering, Michael faced imprisonment, but at least it didn't end in permanent separation. Lucy fared worse. Though her physical injuries healed, her mental state deteriorated. She became erratic, often seen wandering the streets near her home, laughing to herself. These events took a toll on me as well, especially since Michael and I had a son together. It took me a long time to regain my sense of self. In the end, I want to say that in the path of infidelity and revenge, there are no true winners. It only leads to mutual destruction. From now on, I will focus on raising my son and won't tell him about his parents' grudges. I hope Michael can reform and walk a better path in the future.